All right, welcome back to TEW Impact for 2022. We are at the first week of August, starting a new month. A couple weeks away from a pay-per-view. Before I start in with the numbers and the news, I just want to kind of get something out of the way first. In real life, we are a couple days away from the news of Jerry Jarrett having passed away. So, condolences go out to the Jarrett family. Not really going to go in deep like I did with, or not really go in depth at least with, like I did when Don West passed away. Honestly, I'm not super familiar with his career beyond being Jeff's dad, but pretty much, if it weren't for him and Jeff, there would be no Impact, there would be no TNA, there would be no alternative for WWE when we really needed one, and there wasn't really one beyond, the indies. So, you know, if it wasn't for them, we wouldn't really have, the choices I guess we have today, including Impact. Impact's still kicking. So, um, I do like, I listen to Jeff Jarrett's podcast. It's one of the few wrestling, like real wrestling podcasts, like non-comedic ones I listen to. Um, so him talking about like Memphis and knowing like Jerry was behind a lot of the booking, um, and hearing it in a positive manner makes me want to go and kind of go back because Memphis has kind of been like a blind spot in my wrestling history. Uh, if anyone's follows me on Twitter, I posted something about it about how I kind of felt it always came off to me as corny, like corny Southern down home carny type of outlaw mud show stuff because I don't know, probably because like I said in the tweet, I think Jerry Lawler's like one of the corniest wrestlers of all time. Um, but I don't know, like I know, like I keep hearing it's good, but there's so much of it, and it's like it was like a time and a place sort of thing. Like you had kind of had to be there. And I know it's like, kind of like the birthplace of like hardcore wrestling because, you had guys like Onita, guys like Tarzan Goto that were down there, and then they took all those like wild brawls up to Japan, kicked those up a notch, and then ECW saw that and took their influence from that. So, you can kind of trace, you know, you can, there's a lot you can trace back to Memphis, and I'm sure Jerry was a large part of that, and that's something I kind of want to go back to, personally speaking, and revisit or visit because not revisit because I never really visited it, but I guess if you're watching this and you feel like commenting, give me some recommendations, some because like on the one hand I hear of like these bloody brawls and these like uh great storylines, and then I remember like Jim Cornette wrestled a Ninja Turtle, and Jerry Lawler was like wrestling mummies after a while. So, uh, I want to find the good in Memphis, and if you know of anything, let me know. Um, Sorry if I'm distracted. My cat is underneath my feet. All right. With that out of the way, let's go to the numbers. I think I kind of ended last week's show or the last show on a high note. Turns out it really wasn't. I was just kind of, I guess, out of it. Um, but yeah, we kind of went down across the board. Not like severe. Well, I guess. Well, let's just go through it. BTI TV rating 0.01 as always. Overall rating 28, down from 31. Our TV rating is 0.30, down from 0.32. I want to say I was gonna check this out and I forgot. I want to say that 0.32 might be our best TV rating so far. So a drop down from, that to a 0.30, is good, I guess. As good as, a drop can be. But something we can definitely go back to. Impact, the overall rating of 41, down from 46. I think I had my numbers messed up because I was thinking of 41 was, good, probably good like a few months ago, but, probably not the past couple of weeks. And then attendance was down 319, down from 371. That's a drop of like 50 something. Um, so yeah, down across the board. Some big dips, some not so much. So now that we are in August, we got some end of month news for July. July, our total profit, we made money and we made our most money made in a month. So we got 97,277. Um, I think that Impact Plus expansion that we did a couple months ago, I thought that was going to be a recurring cost. Apparently not. Maybe it was a one time, and I think like that related to that cost, we had, uh, if we didn't have that cost last month, we would have made around this much last month. Um, because honestly, like I peeked at the finance and it was like I don't think we definitely didn't make as much in pay-per-view revenue because, it was down from the previous month. So I think like some of our overall revenue was like still down, but we still made enough money. So I can't remember exactly why we made money, but whatever. I'm gonna take it. Regional battles for Southeast. We finished fourth out of fifth. Um, I put the results. NXT is at 61, NWA is at 52, MLW is at 49. We're at 46, and Shine is at 42. That was due to NWA jumping ahead with some uh, name signings, namely Cody Rhodes, namely Doc Gallows, um, I guess Damien O'Connor too, which we'll get to later. But yeah, they had and Commander Aziz as well. But yeah, they had signed some names. Their star power boosted ahead because I think they were behind us. They were fourth, and then MLW. And we were trying to get ahead of MLW, and then NWA hopped over both of us. So we need to get some names. I think now that we're making money, I think I started with 1 million. Now we're at 1.5, so I should be able to spend some money on names now. Um, but yeah, but that'll result in a 5% drop for this month for attendance. But attendance has been kind of steady in that like 300 range, so whatever. Damien O'Connor requested a pay raise from 70 per show to 160. That has been granted. Normally I keep my signing secret, so I don't blow the surprise, but I'm not going to consider this one a huge surprise because, so I'm just going to announce it. We signed Willow Nightingale to a handshake deal, and she's going to debut tonight in a match on Before the Impact. So more names. She's not a huge name in this save. I think she's only working Shimmer otherwise. So just more another addition to the roster. And then backstage incident before Impact was our one of our road agents, Nikki Rock, started a fun game that raised morale. So our morale is in a decent state. I think still hovering around that like 88, 89 range. WWE news, they had a lot. They had a pay per view, well, a couple pay per views if you factor in NXT. It was Money in the Bank. So Sasha Banks defeated Alexa Bliss at Money in the Bank to win the women's Raw women's title, her sixth reign with that belt. Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch won their respective Money in the Bank matches. Rhea Ripley married someone outside of the wrestling business. She wasn't attached to Buddy Matthews or anyone like that. Um, then Andrade El Idolo. This confused me because I got the news and I wrote it down, and then I'm like, wait, something's wrong. Because Andrade El Idolo signed an exclusive written contract to WWE, and I just wrote that down like, okay, whatever. And then I thought, wait, he's not in WWE in this game. He's in AEW. So he's somehow still on a handshake deal with AEW and AAA. Um, but he signed an exclusive written contract with WWE, so I assume those deals will probably end soon. Um, they just haven't yet. But he debuted at the Money in the Bank pay-per-view. He teamed with Edge and lost to Triple H and Sami Zayn in a tag match. So whatever. And then Lacey Evans extended her contract. I believe she is on maternity leave. So yeah. So she's there, and this is like why I kind of confused Andrade. I'm like, Lacey Evans and Andrade extend their contracts. Oh, whatever. And then I'm like, oh wait, Andrade's doesn't work with WWE. Well, but he's back now. And then Subculture, Morgan Webster and Eddie Dennis defeated Mustache Mountain at NXT Takeover 10 to win the NXT UK Tag Team titles their first reign. Kushida defeated Samoa Joe to win the NXT Championship on NXT TV, his first reign. So Samoa Joe, week or month or so after working with us, lost both of his the titles that he had. So I don't know if that's a bad sign. But yeah, he was 24/7 champ, and he lost that to Riddle last week, and then he lost the NXT Championship to Kushida this week. Um, Asuka suffered a dislocated ankle on Raw. She will be out for a few weeks, so not a big injury for her. And something I just put in here: recoded. Finn Balor relocated to the Midwest. I just think it's be funny to see him out here, living out here, just as buff Irishman uh, in the middle of the Midwest. I thought that was just funny. Random American news. Chris Jericho and Layla Hirsch extended their handshake deals. Ty Conti is considered a rising star by insiders. Um, Even though this didn't happen at AEW, I've still put it here. But Lee Moriarty suffered a broken humerus at an AIW Go for Broke taping in a tag match with PB Smooth and versus Leo Rush and Matt Cardona. He will be out for 2 months and a week. He has a written contract with AEW, but he's got a handshake with AIW and PWG. Uh, so yeah, broken leg, broken humerus. 2 months still seems like kind of short for like a broken leg injury, but still a sizable amount of time. Compared to like Asuka's dislocated ankle that she only has like 2 weeks for. And then they increased their live event experience to small. I know, like a couple weeks ago, like they dropped all their production costs like quite a bit, so they actually had to increase their live event experience to small. Um, Speaking of their production values, GCW lowered theirs, lowered production values to semi-pro, broadcast quality to hired pro, music level to generic, live event experience too small. So AEW and GCW have the event same live event experience size. So Ruckus and Chris Bey defeated the Briscoe brothers in a tables match at the Lights Out event to no event, not even to win the GCW tag team titles their first reign. So Chris Bey working with us, a champion there. And then something stupid. Alley Catch and Gregory Iron have formed a team. So, and I think they won a match on the pre-show of that Lights Out event. And then for Defy, TJ Perkins has agreed to a handshake deal. So TJP has not burnt his bridges everywhere. um, just I think NJPW Strong and AAW. He's working Defy and somewhere else I can't remember. But yeah, he's walked out of others, but he's still, employed elsewhere. Japan news. Suzuki Goon for New Japan, Suzuki Goon of Zack Sabre Jr. and Yoshinobu Kanemaru defeated the Gorillas of Destiny to win the IWGP Tag Team Championships. For Noah, Kazushi Sakuraba won the Global Junior League, defeating Kotaro Suzuki in the finals. Notable because Sakuraba is set to retire around Friday this week. So after I do this episode of Impact, Sakuraba will probably retire. But before he did, he won a major tournament, so good for him. I think he's a champion of some sort that he will probably have to vacate as well. Tokyo Joshi Pro made a lot of signings, signing Julia, Hiroi Matsumoto, Lulu Pencil, Misa Matsui, and Mari Sakamoto to handshake deals. So again, like I've mentioned in previous videos, the Joshi promotion's not as territorial as they are in real life. Julia's working Stardom, Lulu Pencils in Ice Ribbon, I think. But yeah, so lots of co-promotion intermingling in the Joshi promotions. Retirements, none announced, but a lot of them going. Oh, not a lot, but some going into effect. Gerald Briscoe, Greg Gagne, Jun Akiyama, Masahiro Chono, Vampiro, Al Snow, El Hijo del Santo, Spike Dudley, Adam Flash, Vanessa Craven, and Easy Money. And then we go to before the impact. So, trying to remember. We get okay. Before the show, we see Joe Hendry and Nick Stapp CPA out in the parking lot. Joe is holding like a camcorder and a computer, and they're basically talking about, oh, this video we just filmed, this music video, it's gonna get you on the right track. I'm gonna make sure I'm gonna play it on Impact tonight. We're gonna convince, the higher ups to get you your job back, and everything will be great. But till then, we'll see you later because he has to go inside to, you know, finish up the video, and Nick Stapp is not allowed inside because he is fired. So they go their separate ways. So Joe Hendry planning to debut a music video tonight on Impact. We get Savannah Evans defeating the debuting Willow Nightingale. Willow Nightingale falling. I think this was a distraction. Yeah, this was probably a distraction interference by Janai Kai, allowing Savannah Evans to get the win. We get an angle with the Swingers Palace crew. Johnny Swinger is basically bumming around the casino again, talking about how it's been boring since Hernandez left. And basically, he tells Zicky to go scouting for a new member. Who that member is, we will find out. Hopefully, personally, I don't have anyone. I do have someone in mind, but I haven't like hired anybody yet for that specific spot. But teasing, hopefully, a new face for Swingers Palace. And then we go backstage where we see Willie Mack walking around, and then walking into the crew of Raj Singh, Shera, and Falaba. And Singh and Shera and Ba kind of reminding each other and reminding Willie Mack that, hey, you haven't really had a matcher on here, you haven't really been booked here in a while. We kind of know what that's like. And, we're trying to, we came together to kind of, prove ourselves as serious. I know you like to have fun, but, that's not going to work out. It didn't work out for any of us. So we're trying to, you know, prove how serious we are. And, there's a spot open for you if you're, willing to cooperate, I guess. And Willie's just not having any of it. He's like, maybe I'm not, maybe since the tag team split with Rich Swann, maybe I haven't been booked lately, but that's okay. I'm still having fun here in Impact. I love the fans and all that stuff, and I just don't want any part of you guys. So he walks off, denies their request. Probably not going to work out the best for him. And then in the main event, Zhao Zia defeating Masha Slamovich in a hardcore match to retain the Impact Digital Media title. I think I had Killer Kelly interfering, um, attacking Masha Slamovich, allowing Zhao Zia to get the win. A low rating because, as I think our company is set, that our so-called audience does not like hardcore matches, so they will always have a penalty. which I kind of think is bullshit because Impact has lots of hardcore matches. So that's something I should probably go back and change if I can. I know like a lot of those changes, like they take time to go into effect to, but don't really want to make any major changes. Like everything's going fine except that for some reason our audience doesn't like hardcore matches, which doesn't make sense. Especially like generic hardcore matches, like just like weapons and stuff, which this pretty much was. So, but yeah, so that hurt the main event. Overall rating of 23 for Before the Impact. And that is it. Let's just go to Impact. All right, so we start Impact with a match stemming from last week. Rich Swann versus Jonathan Gresham, made when Rich Swann kind of got in the face of both Gresham and his wife. Um, Tonight it worked out in his favor because Rich Swann defeated Jonathan Gresham with a chicken fried driver. I don't know that's a move he uses. But basically, it's a distraction from Su Yung. So basically, like mid match, the lights, or near the end of the match or whatever, the lights start to flicker, and Su Yung walks her way out backstage and down the ramp. That's enough for Rich or Gresham to get distracted. Rich Swann to come behind, roll up for a pin, or the chicken fried driver, I guess, to get the pin. Segment rating of 45 for that match, but basically at the end of the match, Su Young's presence uh, has alerted Jordynne Grace. So Jordynne Grace runs out from backstage, goes to attack Su Yung, but the lights go out. The lights go out, and when they come back on, Su Yung is gone. So Jordynne Grace unable to get her hands on Su Yung, unable to get, you know, a measure of revenge as Rich Swann sneaks out with another win, probably due to the interference of his wife, as much as he would like to deny it. So, segment rating of 41 for that. We go backstage. Don't remember how I set this up, if this was a promo or whatever, but basically Dalton Castle's cutting a promo and he's interrupted by Steve Maclin. Maclin having suffered a pin in the six-man tag from last week on Impact of Dalton Castle and the boys versus Maria Canal LC. Dalton Castle pinning Steve Maclin. Maclin, of course, not pleased with that and gets in Castle's face and challenges him to a match for next week. And Castle accepts. And apparently Robert Evans did some helped him. So Robert Evans making the match official with his lawyer powers, I guess. So yeah, Steve Maclin versus Dalton Castle next week. Segment rating of 37. We get Rachel Ellering versus Mercedes Martinez. In trying to remember what they did last week. Let me get my notes. I think it was no, yeah, last week was Tasha Steelz versus Quinn, which resulted in the groups brawl. So now this is kind of a continuation on that. Rachel Ellering, arguably the strongest and maybe most tenured of the Positivity team, as I named them, versus the veteran Mercedes Martinez. Was not enough. Mercedes Martinez. I thought I had a distraction. Maybe I didn't have a yeah. Tasha Steelz interferes. Quinn McKay is at ringside. Uh, so basically Mercedes doing cheating. Um, yeah, we are gonna turn her heel. She has been face, and I've forgotten to rectify that. So we're kind of using her insistence on cheating to get the win in this match, even though she, doesn't really have to. She's pretty much a veteran legend right now. Hopefully this turn does not go bad. Says she's been building it up for 5 segments, so hopefully it doesn't. Good. Turn's a complete success. Finally, a turn works out for us. So apparently, just set the turn, let it go for like a month, and then, deal with it later, and people will not be mad at you. But Mercedes Martinez cheating to win to beat Rachel Ellering. Segment rating of 37 for that. And then we get a video where we see PCO having a hood over his head, more of like a bag over his head, being slumped over in a chair where he's been left in the undisclosed, like dank, dirty location for the past couple weeks. Father Bateman walks up to him, pulls off the hood, and we see, PCO's sweaty, bloody, dirty, but still breathing. And, the camera pans back and we see PCO is not being bound at all in his chair. Father Bateman's talking about how they have tortured PCO for the last couple weeks, and now it is time to put that pain and, that anger and that stuff, all the feelings from being tortured the last couple weeks, to build that up and put it in a new direction, I guess. So he turns around, and Brody King is strapped to another chair, and he's basically kind of holding his head like up high, uh, eyes closed, while Father Bateman puts the hood that was on PCO on Brody King and commands PCO to take his aggression out on Brody King. And PCO is happy to do so. So, more than happy. So, we end the segment with PCO taking out his aggressions, basically beating the shit out of Brody King, who has tortured him the last 2 weeks. So, this weird ritual that Father Bateman has put PCO through, he's now seemingly putting Brody King through it as well. Segment rating 31 for that. And then we come out. Joe Hendry comes out with a he comes out to his music. Sorry, next door neighbor's dog is bugging me. Hope shouldn't be picking that up, but he's not shutting up. But yeah, Joe Hendry comes out, uh, announces his new music video, and it's basically like, I believe in Joe Hendry, but if you believe in Joe Hendry, uh, believe that you can bring CPA Nick Stat back too. He does does a his typical like funny music video. I kind of had this backwards where Brian Myers is mentioned. I didn't necessarily want him off screen. But basically Hendry's song eventually turns into how Brian Myers is like a charlatan and a hack and a bad teacher, and that the only 3 letters that he cares about are not CPA, not even VSK, but MJF and stuff like that, where basically saying Brian Myers doesn't care about, the learning tree or CPA or anybody, but eventually rolls back around to hiring Nick Stat back. So segment ring of 22. Was hoping Hendry would boost. Basically, I'm hoping Hendry will boost up CPA, because CPA is probably like one of our lowest statted members of the roster, so we need to kind of bring him up. But that's the intent. But also Hendry kind of calling out Brian Myers on the sly, so we probably will see some fallout from that. Joe Doring in his return match, basically squashing Yasutaki Yano of Pro Wrestling Noah, segment rating of 17. So, I'm sure that it got penalized for something. Inconsistency, declining physical ability. Wow. Um, Odd face and heel combination. They are both faces, but I didn't realize Joe Doring was like had declining physical ability. You would think, especially since I haven't even booked him for like the last couple of weeks, he would be have healed up, but I didn't know he had anything to heal from. So yeah, segment rating of 17 for that, but it was a squash, so whatever. Joe Doring squashing somebody, and then after the match, calling out Lance Archer and basically saying, Lance, if you want, you've been calling me out for weeks. You know, if you want that match, you can have it, and we can do it at Emergence. And basically, Lance Archer comes out and they stare each other down, setting up the match. So Joe Doring versus Lance Archer at Emergence. Segment rating of 38 for that. And then we go backstage. We see the Impact World Champion Josh Alexander. He is pacing back and forth angrily, kind of at the events of last week's Impact, where Jeff Jarrett accidentally cost Mike Bailey his match against Ace Austin. Speedball Mike Bailey comes in. He's like, I've been looking for you. I'm glad I found you. You stormed off after the show last week. And he's like, I wanted to sit you and Jarrett down. Jarrett came to me. He apologized profusely. I accepted. I understand. He was trying to attack Ace, not me. He was trying to hit Ace with the guitar, not me. And I get it. These things happen. So I wanted to have you hear that from Jeff's own mouth, but you had already left. And this week, Jeff isn't even here. And Josh, that kind of ticks Josh off even more. It's like, oh, he's, all this time he's been showing up, and all of a sudden he's not here this week. So, oh, isn't that convenient? Um, and Bailey's just like, you know, I get why you're mad, and Alexander's like, no, you don't get why I'm mad. When you hold a, you know, no offense, but when you're, ready to hold a world title, whatever, like I am, you know, you will get why I'm mad right now, but and I have something to say later tonight, so that'll explain everything. So Alexander's still in a huff after last week, and Bailey's just kind of like whatever, I guess. So segment rating of 37 for that backstage segment. We get Rep 419 versus LAX. Commentary putting over that this match made after when Rep 419 defeated the Learning Tree and they challenged Motor City Machine Guns. If you remember last week, Motor City Machine Guns said, "Hey, we won't give you the match now, but you know, if you beat the team that we put in front of you next week, maybe we'll consider it." And now revealing that that team is LAX, but Rep 419 actually getting the win over the reunited LAX, but in controversial fashion. Trey Miguel pinning Homicide after interference from Colby Carino. So Colby Carino hopping the rail once again, interfering, attacking Homicide, and that left Homicide open to take the hit and get the pin. Hernandez chasing Colby Carino off into the arms of security who are dragging him from, the premises. But the damage is done. Rep 419 getting, um, defeating LAX, who was put in front of them by the Motor City Machine Guns. So Sam Beal was off his game, but, storyline is gaining heat. So, and a lot of the previous storylines have been gaining heat. So this is kind of what this show is about, gaining heat on the way to Emergence and setting up matches. Segment rating 34 for this. And then we go backstage where we see the Machine Guns, Alex Shelley and Chris Sabin, uh, watching the previous match on the monitor and kind of shrugging their shoulders. They're just like, oh well, we gave them LAX. They, Trey and Sam, you know, maybe, maybe not the cleanest win, but they still won. They still defeated LAX. So, they're kind of shrugging themselves and talking themselves or each other when the Impact World Tag Team Champions, the Wolves, get in their faces. And they're just like, we know what you're trying to do. You're just jerking the young guys around. You're just jerking uh, Trey and Sam around. But the thing is, we just talked to Gail Kim, and she made sure that the winner of that previous match was going to face you guys next week. And the winner of that match next week is going to face us at Emergence. So we just wanted to make sure and tell you guys it's going to be you and Trey and Sam next week on Impact. The winners get that title shot at Emergence. So you know the Guns are like, okay, they wanted that match, they got it, and a title shot is on the line now, so it's gonna be high stakes. So we will see next week on Impact, segment rating of 46 for that. Meanwhile, we go elsewhere backstage where Colby Carino is being dragged out of through the backstage, being thrown out. Gail Kim, I have says Carino suspended. I'm kind of like having him as a not necessarily a member of the Impact roster just quite yet. Uh, but Gail Kim is basically ordering security to throw Colby Carino out after his actions in the previous match, costing Homicide the match. Um, so more of that. Segment rating of 29. And then elsewhere, we get a promo from Rosemary, the Impact Knockouts champion. Rosemary talking about Viper, and now she's not necessarily impressed with her performance. Last week, Viper defeating Brandy Lauren last week in quick fashion. She doesn't really see what the big deal about preying upon the weak is, but the promo doesn't get too in depth because Viper finds Rosemary and starts beating her up and lays her out. So, Viper laying out Rosemary. The match has pretty much been made official. Emergence, Rosemary versus Viper at Emergence. Segment rating of 38 for that. All right, so we get a three-way match. We get Chris Bey versus Mance Warner versus Danhausen. Um, Made last week. It was said by Gail Kim that if Chris Bey were able to win this match, that he would get a title shot at the X Division title at Emergence. Um, Not so much. We didn't really mention that like the overall winner would get a title shot. Um, but that does come into play because Chris Bey wins. So Chris Bey is getting the X Division title shot, but that's because Mance Warner and Danhausen were arguing over who would get the pin. Mance, like Danhausen, would go for the pin, and Mance would break up the pin and remind Danhausen, "You already have a title shot. Let me get my title shot." But that's not how it works. Uh, Danhausen still really unsure of the concept of his briefcase, but regardless, that brief um that brief argument resulting in Chris Bey getting the win. I think, yep, pinning Danhausen. And I think I had Swerve at ringside for this. So basically, Swerve is wanted to see who his opponent would be. Yep, Swerve's at ringside. So basically, he's watching the match intently, uh, finding out that he will have to defend the X Division title at Emergence against Chris Bey. Once again, segment rating of 41. And then we get a promo from Eric Young. Basically, Eric Young talking about how Jake Something has been a thorn in their side recently. Talked about how Jake Something um, and Damian O'Connor getting in a pull apart brawl last week. Um, and basically laying down the challenge for Jake to face Damian at Emergence. And Jake, of course, accepts because that's pretty much what he wants. He wants to face Damian O'Connor and hopefully go through him to face Eric Young. So we get Jake Something versus Damian O'Connor at Emergence. Segment rating of 29. The storyline has lost heat, but Jake Something is getting better at his gimmick. And then we get an interview from Gia Miller interviewing Ace Austin, basically talking about how he got the win over Mike Bailey, and Austin basically taunting uh, about how he manipulated Jeff Jarrett, this so-called great manipulator, and he manipulated Jeff into not hitting him but hitting Speedball with a guitar and getting Josh Alexander off his game and reminding everyone that he's still got a world title shot. So, uh, you know, Alexander is probably rattled. He's so focused on Jeff Jarrett that Ace could swoop in at any time and cash it in. So, all that stuff. I'm just kind of shocked that Gia Miller did a masterful job of improvising. Pretty sure I set everything to scripted, but this is good to know that she can improvise. Normally, I try not to. Well, I try to do like one promo or interview segment, at least one to get Gia on screen as an interviewer. Um, but that was mostly to like boost her up. And I thought like most segments that I put her in tended to drag people down. But if she can improvise, then that's probably good for us. Maybe we should just have her improvise all of her interview segments. But segment rating of 33 for that promo. We get Tennille Dashwood coming up to the ring. Basically, she calls out the inspiration, and she wants an explanation about what's been going on the last. Mostly what happened a few weeks ago, where she was booked in a 3-on-1 handicap match. She expected uh, the inspiration to come save her. That never happened. Eventually, the inspiration do come out, and they're like, "Well, when we told you that you're done, um, you know, riding our coattails or trying to use us to get a tag team or get a, become Knockouts champion, that's what we meant. You're cut off, you're done." But we never booked that match. We never booked like a 6-woman or 6 knockout tag and didn't show up. We never booked that match. We weren't even we weren't even there. So whoever or why that match was even booked, we don't even know. But we told you, we wouldn't do that to you, but also if you want to become Knockouts champion, you got to do that on your own. You can't do that piggybacking off of us anymore. Basically, is their message. Eventually, they're cut off when Deonna Prazzo and Chelsea Green attack them from behind and stomp them out in the aisle. Tennille walking away and walking to the back over her well, former friends at least. Just leaving them as Deonna and Chelsea continue to attack them. Segment rating of 32 for that. Where I'm probably badly um, trying to explain this, but we are trying to um, turn the inspiration face in this. But I realize my explanation for their behavior isn't exactly face-like. I kind of, I'm kind of like saying like, hey, we didn't do this crappy thing that you think we did, but we're also, we're done with you. So it's kind of hard to convey a face behavior out of that, but they're not actively trying to ruin Tennille's career, or at least that's what they claim. So, and then we get our main event in a non-title match, the Wolves facing Michael Bennett and W. Morrissey, who booked last week after Maria Kanellis, Michael Bennett's husband, wants Michael, her husband, and W. Morrissey to work together to get on the same page, and she had hoped that a non-title match, a win or in a non-title match, would result in a future title match against the Wolf, well, against whoever may be tag team champions after Emergence or whenever. But that's not going to happen tonight because they cannot keep their uh, they cannot work together. The Wolves win. Davey Richards, pin W. Morrissey. Basically, Michael Bennett uh, using the same strategy as he had last week, where he let the big man do all the work and would tag himself in um, to pick up the pieces and then basically tag out when that wouldn't work. So, but he ends up leaving, with some bad miscommunication. He ends up leaving W. Morrissey getting the pin. The Wolves win. Um, Storylines gaining heat for at least the tag team program. We are hinting at a face turn for W. Morrissey in the future. This is kind of the start of it. Segment rating of 50, so that's a pretty good match. Probably in like the top 10 of our matches at this point. I would have to look. But basically, Maria's plan for them to coexist does not work and is further not working when, after the Wolves celebrate and go to the back, Michael Bennett keeps shoving Morrissey in the chest, pushing him away, basically blaming him for the loss when Morrissey just finally snaps and lays Bennett out with a big boot and walks off. Walks off, basically like brushing off Maria on his way out. But yeah, this relationship is not going well, to say the least. Segment rating of 35. And then, after probably a commercial break, we get Josh Alexander, the Impact World Champion, coming out with a microphone, and he talks about how last week, how Jeff Jarrett cost his best friend a match, and he's angry. He's angry about that, but he's angry about much more than that. I know he knows that like Jeff has come back to the place that he wants. He basically started, and Jeff is like, or he knows that Jeff is trying to. How do I want to say this? Basically, trying to get the spotlight, but he never thought he would try to do it off of his back. For some reason, he thought Jeff would be better than that. He thought he would be more diplomatic, but as the Impact World Champion, he knows what this belt is all about, and he knows that Jarrett knows what being a world champion is all about. So he knows, or at least he figures, that Jeff Jarrett has come back to Impact to, basically get him into a title match. And, he doesn't believe he's going to do this, but he's doing it right now. He's laying out the challenge. If you've ticked me off one too many times, I guess, and you just like Jeff Jarrett does, he's getting what he wants, and I'm gonna give it to him. Jeff, if you want a title shot at Emergence, I'm giving it to you. All you have to do is accept. I know you're not here this week. I know you wanted to take the week off, try to uh have in a like I guess in an effort to have me calm down. It's not gonna work. What is gonna calm me down is me beating you at Emergence, walking out the true Impact World Champion, and making sure you basically stay out of my spotlight. So Jarrett's, interference lately, he's like, I had to, and Alexander mentions like the whole deal at Against All Odds, I believe it was when we had Samoa Joe and Scott D'Amore, and he's like, you know, I wanted to say goodbye to Scott in my own way. I know he was leaving, but you had to come in and make it all about you. You had to interfere in my friend's match last week, make it all about you. So now this is what you wanted. You want me to make it all about you. So this is what I'm doing. I'm sure this is what you want. You want to be world champ once again. So let's just do this. Emergence, I'm giving you the title shot. All you have to do is come back next week and accept. And that's basically how we end the show with Josh Alexander laying out the challenge for the world title. Segment rating of 47. Overall 47. So that is better than last week. Show increased our popularity. Our only red was the Joe Doring match, so I'm gonna go in and see if like Joe Doring is like secretly injured or like nursing something because I don't think he's has like should have like declining physical ability, but we had Swann versus Gresham at a 45, the main event at a 50. Some good segments in here. So yeah, uh, in front of 341 people, which I know is a improvement from last week, which I thought we were going to get a 5% uh, deduction, whatever. It's time for me to wrap this up. But before I go, let's go. We got for our matches for Emergence, Josh Alexander laying down the challenge to Jeff Jarrett. We'll see if he accepts next week. We'll also see who faces the Wolves next week when we get Machine Guns versus Rep 419. The winner of that will get the title shot at Emergence. We got Rosemary defending against Viper. We got Joe Doring versus Lance Archer. And I think that's all that's confirmed at the. Oh, and Jake Something versus Damien O'Connor. So that's all that's confirmed so far. We got one more week. So more matches will come from Impact. Till then, thanks for watching. And then we get a triangle match. Who said triangle match in the most recent time? I can't talk. Wow.